Welcome back to another reaction video of Bad Batch Season 3. This is episode 6 and 7. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Dom.
Let's jump in.
Welcome back!
This was a cool doubleheader week. Man, this is cool.
You took notes this week.
I took some notes. There was a lot of moving pieces. We got to see a cool Rebels reunion. This felt like a Clone Wars episode. Oh, I was right back in it. It was so cool to see it. What were your thoughts?
I definitely got clone, emphasis on clone. I was a little peeved with that. But here's the thing. So I'm coming from the perspective of, I don't know what's going on, right? And so I'm seeing everybody running around. They all look the same. They all sound the same. And I was like, no, what's going on? And I didn't know until, like a week ago when you told me that the same voice actor is the voice of all of these characters. Yeah. And I kind of was getting a little piece of that towards the beginning of this show. I thought I heard maybe he voiced a couple characters here and there, but all of them. And so that was really in my mind.
Yeah. Oh man, I think the second episode 7, was just so much fun. I mean, yeah. I loved seeing clone troopers back in action. The fact that we're getting into this really cool period where you still have these cells of clones that are just loyal to, the former Republic and the Empire, and they're just doing their job, and they're really just removed, from what's really going on in the galaxy. And we get to finally see those light bulbs going off in Commander Wolf. That was, his helmet's so cool.
I don't know which one that was.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. I knew these two episodes were going to be fun at the beginning of episode 6. It reminded me of Shrek when the fairy tale creatures are running through the forest about to invade Shrek's swamp. I was like, oh my goodness, this is really fun. Like, I want to see what's going on because there's a lot of creeping and a lot of mystery. The music really added to it.
Yeah.
And I really was waiting for the fun. It was dying a little bit. The fun was going a little downhill towards the end of episode 6, but it did pick back up during I think the entirety of episode 7. What do you think?
Yeah, episode 7 was great. I mean, we had this amazing Rebels reunion, and we did see at the end of episode 7 Gregor in the background as that cool standoff was going off. So I really say this was an awesome arc episode for the future. I think that it's opening a door to another animated series coming out of this to link wherever we end up to where Rebels took off, because seeing the band back together again, seeing Wolf, still working for the Empire. Gregor's already working with the Captain Rex clone group. So it was so cool to see that at the end of episode 7. So going back to episode 6, it did take off in an interesting way. We get to see the sort of spark of whatever clone rebellion that Rex is leading. Clearly he's trying to save his brothers, and that was really cool to see that they have everything set up the way that you would see it, in the original trilogy with their equipment and these, small off-grid facilities. And even that monastery for the Clone Wars fans was seen back in the Clone Wars era too. So they're revisiting that, and it was so good. It made me realize how much I miss Clone Wars. We see Senator Tucci's back, and she's meeting with.
I'm sorry. I didn't know any of these characters' names, so I wrote Little Blue Smurf.
Little Blue Smurf.
The lady, yeah. And then Colonel Mustard.
Colonel Mustard, yes.
Are you trying to make me look stupid in front of the other guests?
Don't need any help from me, sir.
That's right.
But yeah, that's how I know who you're talking about.
They chose two very over-the-top looking characters to lead this.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
I loved the dynamic of, the spy thriller of episode 6 and having them sneak around to get to that meeting. We see a lot of clones die. I mean, not as much as we're used to seeing in the Clone Wars, but a lot of good, hearted clones die in this episode. Trying to push this, clone rebellion movement forward. It's just interesting. I like that we took this little deviation step. What a packed 2 episodes.
I'm glad that you mentioned Clone Wars because when I was watching episode 7 and the fight scenes were happening, the only Clone War reference I really have is that one episode in Ahsoka
Live
where she
action
meets
Ahsoka, right?
the
Yeah.
live action Ahsoka. Yes, but I got those vibes in episode 7. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask Kyle about this because I don't know if it was the color or because they were fighting at night and you couldn't really see anything. I said I really thought that there were a lot of Clone War vibes in that episode. So
Yeah, I mean the fighting's different when you deal with clones, and that's what's so cool about it, and that's what brought the Clone Wars into such a unique, war perspective on where the Separatists were dealing with, and I love that it stretched out over 7 seasons. It's so good. You need to watch it, but you just see how fast paced it is compared to maybe what you're used to in the original trilogy, and stormtroopers are just kind of boxing in a corridor shooting. You have these clone troopers that are jumping through hoops and thinking so far outside of the box that it makes it a compelling story. And, we see some really, really interesting deaths in this one too. And it made it so cool. I mean, it was right back into that quick pace, fast action that made Clone Wars really special. This episode made me think that there's more to his story than we've been fed, and it could just be that's the tone that they wanted to set with him. But the fact that they're focusing a little bit more on how Omega is using his mannerisms, and she's got the toothpick going on, and he's asking her if she's okay and if the rifle's good, and they're both watching out for each other, which is great. And you wonder about Hunter because he's like not even talking to Omega. He used to be the one being like, stay here, go here. And he like, there's so little dialogue happening there. And it's heavy. Like it's clearly on purpose. Whether or not that's from a place of jealousy from Hunter or, he feels maybe he's been replaced. I don't know where we're going to go with that. But the silence is deafening from Hunter this season. And I don't like it. Like I think I mentioned this on our first episode. I was like, or our second episode, I expected more from Hunter. I expected more of the emotional presence from him about Omega. It was like that was his, little sister slash kind of like daughter role, and he's like taking a back seat to everything with her, and I don't like that. It just doesn't match. Like, it doesn't match the previous 2 seasons. I felt that. There's something going on with him that whether it's just the way the writing is playing out or there's more to it, I don't know, but I'm missing that part of it.
I was worried that was happening with all the characters because somebody was going to get taken out, whether it was Batcher or any one of the other members of the crew. I really thought that's why that's happening.
Yeah, I'm very cautious with how much they're showing the relationship growth with Crosshair and Omega, because I'm like, are they doing this so that our heartstrings are pulled closer to Crosshair and he's redeemed in the audience eyes, and then we're gonna learn a twist?
Do you want to talk about the operatives?
Yeah, I mean, we get to see these really cool clone operatives that have been, in the background this season a little bit. We see one of them get captured early in episode 6. We see, the whole point is to get some information out of him. We know there's a tracker in him. The second operative is activated. Little do they know there's a tracker within him that can't be scanned easily. And so we have the second operative get activated, who acted different. There was something special about this one. This one seemed very, very focused and relentless on their mission. So there's definitely something that stands out. He survives. We know that. You know, at the end of episode 7, he is still alive.
And then we have Commander Wolf.
What a bad clone. I mean,
Man.
that helmet is awesome. I can't wait for them to come out with his helmet. It is so cool. And we know Commander Wolf, if you've seen Rebels, makes it all the way, into the eve of the rebellion and A New Hope. We know he makes it all the way to where that kicks off. And so really cool to see that.
So this part of the episode, and I would say the season, really made me hungry for something.
My God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
So I'm not necessarily watching the other 2 seasons. We talked about this already. I don't really need to watch all of that. But I do feel like I'd be interested in watching another series that comes out of this. Clone Wars, any of the other past movies or shows that do have some type of tie-in with all of the action that we saw from episode 6 and 7.
Yeah, I will never get tired of clones. I mean, to me, it is.
I'll get there.
So the standoff, what did you think?
It was intense. I was worried it would be one of those scenes where there's a traumatic injury or fight, or I don't know, one of them trying to end each other. Like right when the other one's talking, I was like watching through my hands like this. I was worried it would be one of those, but it didn't happen that way.
I think it shows where we're at with the clones. We've seen these clone commandos on Tantus, and they're doing the bidding of the Empire without any hesitation. And then we see Wolf come in with his, group, and we see a clone commander at his side, and there is no second guessing, Wolf. We have our orders, and Wolf is right away, shutting that down. And it shows how, maybe the clones that are a little bit removed from the Empire and are still on these missions, similar to what we saw in Clone Wars, how you had these battalions of clones, on the other side of the galaxy away from Coruscant, where they're forming their own, unique, paths. And we see that in clones. And so now we're seeing that with Wolf, and I love that. I mean, I loved seeing, clone brothers just holding it down, because we've been so accustomed in the last couple seasons where you have clones that are still doing the bidding of the Empire, that are still fighting back against Clone Force 99. We see little hints here and in there of the clones questioning what's going on, but for once I finally got to root for the clones again, and that's what I loved about it so much. And to me, this seemed like Commander Wolf's aha moment, that there's so much more happening behind the scenes. He respects Rex so much, and you see that play through. I mean, there was no real hesitation there.
Yeah, to be told, oh, I know that you've been trained this way, but reconsider, and to question things, and for him to actually do it. Wow, that was a big deal.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's a big reunion for Rebels. In Rebels, we see retired clone Commander Wolf, still loyal to the Empire, even years and years in the future, and being separated from his official duties. We still see that in Rebels, and I think that goes back to the possibility of him being so far removed from the day to day that he's just doing his job. He was loyal to the Republic, loyal to the Empire, and at some point he exits. And so that's why I say there's a lot left to be said for the clones. We have the clone rebellion that's supposed to happen at some point that we've never seen, where the clones rise up against the Empire and they pretty much get decimated, and it's sort of the closing to their era completely. We know that happens. We've never seen it, and so will we see that in some new series? I really think this is the first drop hint that there's something coming with Rex, Gregor, Wolf, and every other clone they attempt to save along the way, and I'm so excited that could happen.
All right, so let's hear your final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm excited. The good news is we're at a point where we've seen, at least from the season preview, we've seen most of what was in the initial preview up to this point. So the rest of the season, there's only one other character that will make their intro. We know Asajj Ventress is going to make a big debut here in the probably near future. I think we're at that point where we're talking so much about M count. They're starting to kind of figure it out. And who better to reach out to but somebody that was such a big role in the early seasons of Clone Wars and in season 7. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I think we're about to take a really dark turn, though.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't need to see them all get decimated. And we've always known there were dark things ahead, but I'm still hoping that whether it's a spin-off series or maybe just the end of this season, just some type of creative twist.
Yeah. Yeah, something's going to come from it. So I'm very happy. These 2 episodes were a lot of action. It gave us some really interesting, closure to certain aspects of the Clone Wars. Opened up a lot of questions for the future, and I love that we're having this in this season. It's not just a cut and dry season like we've seen, and that's similar to how season 7 of Clone Wars was. It closed a lot of chapters. It moved things along very quickly. It was a different feel to it. This is a different feel to it. So I'm all about it. I'm excited.
All right.
See you next week.
See ya.